So in the stock market, there are many different types of strategy. It could be trend, it could be candlestick, it could be looking at some patterns, it could be catching the reversals. And one of those strategies that I like would be what we call the double bottom strategy. So in this video, we'll go through this double bottom strategy, the basics of it, what is it about, how do we actually use it, how do we catch and position ourselves to ride a reversal. Hey guys, Joey here, top tier MyZero trader in Phillips Securities, and this is pretty much what we'll cover in this double bottom strategy video, right? And double bottom is essentially used to catch reversals, right, from a downtrend to a potential uptrend. And how do we actually use it effectively to position ourselves to prepare for the impending move, right? And you can make quite a good profit if you actually know how to see this pattern properly, all right, and kind of like know exactly when to get it. So we're going to dive into the basics before we look at some case studies on how to actually use it and where you could actually position yourselves. Let's go. So in the stock market, normally when we see prices of stocks going down, all right, and we want to come like position ourselves for a reversal, most of the time it will be like this. So stock will not like just go down very quickly over time, all right. You might just see a bit of consolidation, and that is where we might see an upwards trend, right? It will not just rebound like a V-shaped recovery just like that. That's normally not how it happens, right? Most of the time we will kind of like hit down, find a little bit of a bottom, all right, and we find a little bit of support as it, find some stability above a certain price level, and that is where potentially we could see a double bottom pattern forming, right? So this is pretty much how it looks like. What is a double bottom pattern? So very quickly, let me go to draw this line right here. This is what we call resistance line right over here. So that is something like a price level whereby as the stock hits to that level many times, the sellers comes back and push prices back down. That is like a resistance level. It's something like the ceiling, right? So it's very hard to go above that level. All right, it can be a few months, could be a few weeks, and each time we hit that, there are just sellers coming back to push prices down. All right. And there could be another level as well. That is what we call the support level. So let me just draw it for you right here. This is what we call a support level. All right, so forgive my drawing. All right, so you can see right over here. Let me just zoom it for you. Okay, so this is pretty much like what we call a double bottom. All right, we could see prices kind of like heading lower. So it has been forming what we call like lower highs. You can see as it moves like down, it could be a few months to form lower highs, right? So that's not a good thing. It's a bit of what we call a downtrend. You want to be careful, but somewhere along the downtrend, all right, and then we find some support, right? Buyers started to come back. It did not like just like hit down and down and down, lower and lower, but we found a bit of a support. That means at the price level, right, buyers were just there to defend that level. So let me just go ahead to remove this, right? So it didn't actually hit down, and we found a support, and that is where this first bottom comes in, right? Of course, at this point in time, right over here, right, we wouldn't know that it is a bottom. We wouldn't know because it could actually just, as I say, it could just like hit up, and then from there we could just trade down and just break the support and hit lower. So when it first hit that bottom, nobody would know that that price level right over here would be that bottom. Only when we get the second confirmation. So you can see right over here as it trades up, right, as it trades up over here, it went up and then it came back down to about that same price level right over here again. All right, and this is where we got the bottom, this second bottom, right? This is what we call a double bottom because like two bottoms. But at this point in time, there is still no clear confirmation of like a reversal. So doesn't mean like when you see like the first bottom and the second bottom and then it would just like go all the way up. That doesn't really happen, right? So we want to get more confirmation, right, of this double bottom strategy. So at this point in time, right, when it hit the second bottom, it doesn't really mean anything. It just shows that, well, this price level whereby it has rebounded like two times, right? It has rebounded two times. That could be a pretty decent price level of being a support, right? So the third time if it hits there, most likely buyers might come back again, all right? So as long as we stay above this new, all right, price level, which is what we call the support Yeah, as long as we're above this like price support level, then we are pretty good to go. All right, there could be, I say again, there could be a potential trend reversal about to play out, but we need more confirmation, right? In terms of this double bottom strategy to form out, we need more confirmation. That is just an indication that it might happen, but doesn't mean it will happen, right? So when could we potentially see the confirmation of the double bottom strategy, right? Very simple, right? But you can see that there is this resistance line that I've drawn, right? So this line right over here is what we call the resistance level. All right, resistance, as I mentioned, is pretty much a price level whereby sellers comes out and push prices down. It could be a few months of it consolidating below, and it just couldn't get above it. So we could see like two bottoms, like the first one right over here, number 1 and number 2, and we might just consolidate right in that range, just above that green line but below that red resistance line. Does it make sense? All right, and what happens is that when we finally see right over here, when we finally see that break, all right, that break above that red resistance line, well, if that happens, and of course we look at other things like the trend and trend indicators and all that, if that happens together with some of these things, there could be a confirmation of this double bottom strategy, right? In terms of this double bottom 1 and 2, right, being the bottom, and that's where a potential reversal can start to happen in terms of prices starting to push higher. All right, and then of course when this happens, this resistance line right over here would now turn into what we call a support level. This would be what we call a support level. All right, and essentially, let me see if I can turn this to green. Oh, okay, cannot. Yeah, so this is what we call a new support level, and if prices were to stay above it, great. That is where a potential trend reversal is in place. All right, so this is what we call a double bottom strategy, right? So essentially how it looks like would be something like this. All right, so let me just go to draw it for you a little bit clearer. Something like what I drawn over here, you can see that this is where we got like a double bottom, the first bottom, the second bottom, right? Sometimes it might just form really nicely, both of these bottom is like the exact same price level. It could be a few bits different, it could be 5 or 10 cents different depending on the price level, but more or less, if it does hit to that same price level, or kind of like a zone or a range whereby you see buyers starting to come back up right over here, well, that could be a sign of strength, that could be a sign of a support being found. But as I say, we want to see more confirmation, especially right over here when we break above that key resistance level. That can then be a good confirmation of the uptrend just starting to form. Of course, we want to, as uptrend forms, we want to kind of like consolidate and push higher and find new higher supports along the way. All right, and that would be a healthy uptrend. So let's take a look at some case studies as to how do we actually apply this double bottom strategy and see if it actually happens in real life. All right, so let's take a look at this stock called MI Homes, right? One of those stocks that I've shared to some of my paid subscribers on a potential double bottom in terms of a reversal from down to up and how we actually position ourselves previously. All right, so let's see where the double bottom actually formed, all right, last year. All right, so before we do that, we want to go ahead to draw, all right, what we call the horizontal price level. So remember, I draw the horizontal red resistance line and the horizontal green support line. So very simple. Somewhere around here, you could see that we've kind of formed a support level right over here. So this is what we call like a bottom. Remember, it looks something like what we drawn previously in the diagram. We had this little double bottom touches 2 times. So this is a red resistance line, you can see, right? So this is what we call something like a double bottom pattern, right? So this is like the first bottom, number 1, all right, number 1 as I mentioned previously, and this is number 2, right? Number 1 and number 2. Of course, sometimes it will not be as nice as what we draw in the diagram whereby you touch 2 times and then it will just go all the way up, right? We might just, consolidate a little bit, like see right over here, it went up, the resistance, it came back down, but along the way, we actually saw a couple of, just some profit taking here and there, a bit of a short-term movements up and down, right? But in general, in terms of it swinging up, swinging down, and then swing back up again, right? Of course, look at this, right? So we kind of like swing down a little bit, swing up, swing down, short-term movement in between, but the general direction, you get the meaning, right? The general direction is, swinging up and down, and we found these 2 bottoms, right over here. This is the second bottom. The first bottom is on the left, right? So this is what we call a double bottom strategy. So before I talk about what happens after that, let's take a look at what happens before, all right, these two first and second bottom was being found. So this is the first one, this is the second one. Of course, we got this red resistance line right here. So before a double bottom is being found, right, it is what we call a downtrend. It means prices has hit lower and lower, because if it doesn't hit lower, it's moving up, then it's not really a double bottom, because a double bottom would be formed somewhere at the lowest point. That means prices has been just coming down and down. It's a downtrend. We form what we call lower highs, and finally it did not go lower. We found some support, and that's where we see a double bottom and the reversal starts to happen, and that's where you can start to think about getting in, to buy, right? So before the double bottom, you can see that we have been pretty much in a bit of a weakness, a bit of a downtrend. Why? Let's just explain this. You can see this was pretty much the high, all right, the high that you've seen. You can see that as it progresses forward, all right, the highs get lower. You can see lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. So it forms lower highs, right? So that's not a good thing when you see lower highs or even lower lows. You want to be careful, or you want to be careful. We don't want to think about buying, because if you buy, you might get stuck. You might just hit lower and lower. You only want to think about getting in when we have found some stability or some good support level, like this double bottom. It could be a triple bottom. It could be a price level whereby we see a lot of support. It doesn't just break and go lower and lower. Well, that is where you can start to think about potentially positioning yourself to catch the rebound. So in this case, you can see that before the double bottom pattern was formed, all right, we were in a downtrend, which is correct, right? As I mentioned, in the double bottom pattern, most of the time we are kind of like pushing lower and lower, and then we see this, and that's where we could start to see a reversal. All right, so somewhere around here, you can see that we got this first bottom is about that $36 level. You see quite a strong reversal back up. All right, of course, somewhere in the bottom as well, if you do see some bullish price action, I will not talk too much about like candlesticks and all that, but if you do see some bullish reversal candles near some of these support levels, then that could be a better kind of like a firmer signal of a rebound, right? So there were some pretty good bullish candles right here, some good bullish candles as well. All right, and then we rebounded. All right, right here you can see we rebounded. And we rebounded, but you can see as we rebounded, right, we were actually back to this resistance. So you can see a bit of a resistance right here, that $48. So 48, look at this right here, 48 came down. In fact, we neared it as well, and we came down. So that is that resistance level, the red line that I talked about. So at this point in time, as we were still below this red line, if you're still below the red line, like not the red line, like the this price level is 48, so let's say we are like 46 or 45, or just below $48, has the pattern actually formed up yet? Has the double bottom pattern actually formed up? Yes or no? The answer is no, all right, because it has not broken up of that red resistance level. I mentioned, right, you want to break above this resistance line right over here and right over here as well. So you might just go up and come back down. In fact, we can actually like trade towards this resistance level, and we can actually just hit back down. Does it make sense? It could hit back down, and then it might go up a bit, and then it might just come back down again. So that is a resistance level whereby selling can actually happen, right? So when we want to get the confirmation of a double bottom pattern or double bottom strategy forming, right, that is when you want to see that break right over here. You want to see that break of the key resistance level right up here. So if it breaks that 48, it goes to like 49 or 50 and all that, and it stays above, of course, right? That is where we get that confirmation, all right, and a potential reversal can start to happen, and that's where we get the completion of this double bottom strategy, all right, whereby it is formed out completely, and there could be a potential trend reversal back up. All right, does it make sense? All right, and of course, when this happens now, as we turn into an uptrend, of course, we can look at other things like moving averages and all that. I'll not talk too much about it, but just to keep things simple, for the sake of this double bottom strategy video, right? As we turn into an uptrend, what you want to look out for would be to see if we can form higher lows, right? So now this resistance line, all right, whereby we finally broke above, it would be what we call a support. So let's just turn it to green in color, right? So now it's green in color, all right, and as long as we stay above this $48 or this new resistance turn support, we are pretty good to go, all right? We don't want to like come back down. So if, it's not so good if we like break above it, like right over here, and then we kind of like trade, and then we come back down again. That's not good, right? We want to stay above that new support level. We want to stay above these new support levels. Let's turn it to green in color right here. All right, so as long as we stay above, then great. that is where the uptrend looks intact, and we could potentially start to see higher lows, right? Higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. That's where the uptrend can start to form up. So there we have it, guys. I hope you have learned something in this double bottom strategy video, whereby I've shown you exactly what is a double bottom, how do we know whether it has completed, when do we want to position ourselves, and I hope you have learned something. And if you have found this video valuable, I would appreciate if you can give me a thumbs up, right? Smash the subscribe button as well. That would be really helpful, and that would definitely help out the channel. And thank you so much for doing this. So Joey here, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to see you in the next video. Take care.